The air inside Ed Parker's Pasadena studio is thick with anticipation and sweat. Sunlight cuts through the high windows, casting long shadows across the polished hardwood floor. In one corner stands a 27-year-old Chinese-American instructor most of Hollywood has never heard of. In the other, a decorated karate champion with something to prove and a reputation to protect. What happens in the next 12 seconds will become one of the most debated moments in martial arts history. The karate champion has just called Bruce Lee a fake fighter, a movie choreographer playing dress-up, a dancer masquerading as a warrior. The accusation hangs in the air like smoke. Bruce Lee doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't posture or flex. Instead, he says 5 words that will define his legend. Touch me once, just once. This is the story of Bruce Lee's greatest validation, the moment when philosophy became reality, when theory faced execution, and when one man's lifetime of training was compressed into 12 seconds that would echo through generations. But to understand why those 12 seconds mattered, we need to understand who Bruce Lee was in August of 1967, and why so many traditional martial artists wanted to see him fail. August 1967, Bruce Lee stands at a crossroads between obscurity and immortality. He is not yet a movie star, not yet a cultural icon, not yet the man whose face will appear on posters in 1 billion bedrooms across the planet. In the summer of 1967, Bruce Lee is a struggling martial arts instructor with a pregnant wife, mounting bills, and a controversial reputation that precedes him everywhere he goes. He has been in America for 8 years, arriving from Hong Kong in 1959 with $100 and a chip on his shoulder. He opened his first Kune martial arts school in Seattle, then another in Oakland. He teaches a hybrid system he calls Jeet Kune Do, the way of the intercepting fist. It is not traditional. It does not bow to lineage or ritual. It cherry-picks techniques from boxing, fencing, Wing Chun, and whatever works in actual combat. This makes Bruce Lee dangerous, not to opponents but to orthodoxy. Traditional martial artists view him as a heretic. He teaches non-Chinese students, breaking the ancient code that kept Kung Fu secret within Chinese communities. He criticizes classical forms as organized despair, calling traditional kata and rigid stances the classical mess. He tells anyone who will listen that most martial arts schools teach antiquated techniques that would get a student killed in a real fight. These are fighting words in a martial arts community built on hierarchy, tradition, and respect for lineage. To understand the hostility Bruce Lee faced, you must understand the martial arts landscape of 1960s America. Karate dominates. Japanese and Okinawan systems, Shotokan, Gajiryu, Kyokushin, have established deep roots through American military personnel who trained overseas after World War II and the Korean War. These systems emphasize discipline, respect, and traditional forms. Dojos operate like military academies. Instructors are called sensei and treated with religious reverence. Then there are the Chinese Kung Fu schools, operating mostly in Chinatowns, shrouded in secrecy and mysticism. Masters claim lineages stretching back centuries. Techniques are taught slowly, only to the worthy after years of conditioning and character testing. Mystique is currency. The less outsiders know, the more powerful Kung Fu appears. Into this landscape walks Bruce Lee, young, brash, and dismissive of everything both camps hold sacred. He says karate stances are too rigid, too square, too committed. He says Kung Fu forms are beautiful but impractical, more dance than combat. He demonstrates his art in parking lots, at tournaments, and in private sessions with anyone curious enough to visit his small schools. He moves with a speed that seems physically impossible, a blur of limbs and sounds that witnesses struggle to describe. But here's the problem: Bruce Lee hasn't fought in any major tournaments. He hasn't competed under unified rules. His demonstrations, while impressive, are controlled environments. His students revere him, but his students are not elite competitors. His most famous student is a philosophy major named Steve McQueen. So the question festers in traditional martial arts circles: is Bruce Lee real, or is this all theatrical smoke and mirrors? Martial arts in the 1960s operates on challenge matches. If you claim your style is superior, someone will test that claim, often publicly, sometimes violently. These challenges are not friendly sparring sessions. They are pride battles with reputations, students, and school enrollments on the line. Lose a challenge match and students leave. Other instructors talk. Your credibility evaporates. Bruce Lee has already fought one famous challenge match in Oakland, 1964, against Wang Jackman, a traditionalist who accused Lee of betraying Chinese martial arts by teaching Caucasians. That fight remains shrouded in controversy. Bruce claims he won in 3 minutes. Wang's camp claims it was longer, messier, more ambiguous. No video exists, only conflicting witness accounts and bruised egos. The traditional martial arts community does not give Bruce the benefit of the doubt. They see his flashy demonstrations, they hear his bold claims, they watch him on the Green Hornet television series where he plays Kato, the kung fu fighting sidekick, and they see an actor, not a warrior. This is the context swirling around Ed Parker's International Karate Championships in Long Beach, California, where Bruce Lee has been invited to give a demonstration. Ed Parker, known as the father of American karate, respects Bruce. He has invited Bruce multiple times. Bruce's demonstrations at the Long Beach tournaments in 1964 and 1966 have become legendary. The two-finger push-up, the one-inch punch speed demonstrations that seem to defy physics. But respect from Ed Parker doesn't translate to respect from every competitor at the tournament. His name is Vic Moore. Heavyweight karate champion, multiple tournament victories, a powerhouse in the American karate circuit, tall, muscular, technically proficient, and confident in the superiority of his Shotokan training. Vic Moore is not some amateur loudmouth. He is legitimate, decorated, and dangerous. Moore watches Bruce Lee's demonstration with skepticism bordering on contempt. He sees the speed, he sees the theatrics. He sees Bruce break boards with a side kick, demonstrate Kai Sao trapping drills with students, and execute that famous one-inch punch that sends a volunteer stumbling backward into a held chair. And Vic Moore isn't impressed. After the demonstration, Moore approaches members of Bruce's group. Some say he approached Bruce directly, others say he made his comments loud enough for Bruce to hear. The exact words vary depending on who tells the story, but the essence remains consistent. That's fake movie choreography. That flashy stuff wouldn't work against a real fighter. He's never competed. He's never been tested. He's a dancer. The words reach Bruce Lee. Now, Bruce could ignore this. He could walk away. He has nothing to prove to Vic Moore. He has a television show, a growing reputation, and students who pay him specifically because they believe he is the real deal. But Bruce Lee operates on a different code, one forged in Hong Kong street fights, sharpened in Oakland challenge matches, and refined through thousands of hours of obsessive training. He doesn't believe in letting disrespect stand unchallenged. He finds Vic Moore. This moment matters more than personal ego. If Bruce Lee backs down, the whispers become shouts. Every traditional martial artist who resents his iconoclasm, his cross-training philosophy, his rejection of classical forms, they will all claim vindication. His students will question whether they've been following a fraud. The small but growing movement toward practical, eclectic martial arts will lose its most charismatic champion. If Bruce accepts the challenge and loses, it's worse. A loss to Vic Moore wouldn't just be a loss, it would be a refutation. It would prove that traditional karate, with its rigid stances and formal kata, is superior to Bruce's improvised, concept-based approach. It would validate every critic who claimed Jeet Kune Do was unproven, untested, and ineffective. Bruce Lee's entire philosophy rests on one central claim, that martial arts should be practical, adaptable, and ruthlessly effective in real combat. If he cannot demonstrate that philosophy under pressure against a legitimate opponent, then his teachings are just theories, beautiful, articulate theories that crumble when fists start flying. For Vic Moore, the stakes are different but equally high. If he touches Bruce Lee, if he lands even one clean technique, he proves that classical karate can handle this flashy kung fu nonsense. He becomes the man who exposed Bruce Lee. Tournament wins are impressive, but this would be legacy-defining, the karate champion who called out the fake and made him fold. But if Vic Moore cannot touch Bruce, if this movie star instructor makes him look foolish, well, that's a humiliation that transcends trophies. Both men understand what hangs in the balance as they stand in Ed Parker's studio, surrounded by witnesses who will carry this story for decades. Bruce Lee looks at Vic Moore and speaks 5 words. Vic Moore is not a random heckler shouting from the bleachers. Born in 1943, Moore represents the first generation of American-born karate champions, men who learned the art not in Okinawa or Japan, but in stateside dojos under immigrant masters and military instructors. By 1967, at 24 years old, Moore has already accumulated an impressive competitive record, grand champion at multiple tournaments, heavyweight division dominance, and a reputation for powerful, technically clean techniques. He trains in Shotokan Karate, one of the most widespread Japanese styles, characterized by deep stances, linear attacks, and explosive power. Moore's physique matches his style. He stands over 6 feet tall, weighs around 200 pounds, and possesses the kind of athletic build that makes martial arts techniques look both graceful and devastating. In tournament kumite competitive sparring, Moore is a predator. He uses his reach advantage brilliantly, keeping opponents at bay with long-range reverse punches and snapping front kicks. His timing is excellent, his distancing precise. He has knocked out opponents. He has made black belts look like beginners. But tournament karate in 1967 operates under strict rules: controlled contact, point-stop scoring, no grappling, limited targets. Fighters wear gi uniforms. Referees halt action after each scored point. The environment is structured, predictable, ritualized. Vic Moore has mastered this environment. So why does a successful tournament champion feel compelled to confront Bruce Lee? Pride is part of it, the natural competitive ego of a man who has beaten everyone in his division and sees another martial artist receiving attention, adulation, and mystique without having earned it through competition. But there's something deeper, a genuine philosophical disagreement about what martial arts should be. Moore represents the traditionalist camp, not the mystical, secretive traditionalism of old-school kung fu, but the modern, systematized traditionalism of Japanese martial arts adapted for American consumption. This camp believes in discipline through repetition, drilling the same techniques thousands of times until they become reflexive. Respect for lineage, learning from masters who learned from masters, preserving teachings across generations. Character development, using martial arts training to forge mental discipline, humility, and self-control. Technical purity, executing techniques with proper form, rather than improvising or mixing styles. To practitioners like Vic Moore, Bruce Lee's approach borders on disrespectful. Bruce talks about absorbing what is useful, rejecting what is useless. He trains with boxers, studies fencing footwork, incorporates wrestling and judo. He tells his students to be like water, formless, adaptable, flowing into whatever shape the situation demands. This sounds like chaos to a traditionalist. It sounds like a man with no roots, no loyalty, no respect for the masters who came before. It sounds like arrogance, a young man in his 20s claiming to know better than centuries of accumulated wisdom. And it especially galls traditionalists that Bruce Lee has never tested his theories in the crucible where all martial arts reputations are made: competition. The tournament circuit in 1967 is tight-knit. Competitors know each other. They travel to the same events. They spar together, judge each other's matches, and gossip relentlessly about who's really good and who's just hype. In this community, Bruce Lee is an outsider. He doesn't compete, he doesn't earn his rank through the established hierarchies. He demonstrates at Ed Parker's invitation, but demonstrations are exhibitions, choreographed, controlled, designed to impress rather than test. Vic Moore speaks for many competitors when he questions Bruce's legitimacy. It's not just jealousy, though jealousy surely plays a role. It's a genuine epistemological challenge. How can we know Bruce Lee is as good as people claim if he never subjects himself to the same testing ground we all use to prove ourselves? From this perspective, Moore's challenge is not just personal. It's a defense of the system, a demand for verification, a call to bring the mystique into the light and see if it can survive scrutiny. What Moore doesn't fully understand, what perhaps nobody fully understands in August 1967, is that Bruce Lee operates in a different paradigm entirely. Bruce doesn't compete in tournaments because he views tournament rules as limiting, artificial, and divorced from real combat. He trains not to score points, but to end fights. His techniques are designed for street confrontations where there are no referees, no safety rules, no stopping after a clean hit lands. The stage is set for a collision between two martial arts philosophies: tournament-tested classical technique versus street-forged adaptability. 2 men, 1 challenge, 12 seconds. To understand what happens next, you must understand what Bruce Lee believes about fighting and why it's so radical. Bruce Lee's martial arts philosophy can be summarized in one sentence he wrote in his personal training notes. In building a statue, a sculptor doesn't keep adding clay to his subject. Actually, he keeps chiseling away at the non-essentials until the truth of his creation is revealed without obstructions. This is Jeet Kune Do in metaphor: remove everything that doesn't work, keep only what's essential, and let function dictate form. Classical martial arts, Bruce argues, have accumulated centuries of non-essentials. Ritualized movements, impractical stances, techniques designed for weapons or armor that no longer exist, flashy forms created to preserve cultural identity rather than combat effectiveness. Bruce studies boxing and incorporates its footwork, head movement, and straight-line power punching. He studies fencing and adopts its principles of distance management and economy of motion. He drills Wing Chun trapping techniques but modifies them for modern contexts. He reads books on military strategy, psychology, and biomechanics. His core principles include 1. Intercepting, don't block and counter, intercept the attack before it fully develops, attack the attack. 2. Simplicity, the simplest technique is usually the fastest, speed beats complexity. 3. Directness, the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, no wind-up, no telegraphing. 4. Non-classical, don't be bound by style. Adapt to the opponent, the situation, the moment. Bruce writes in his notes, if you follow the classical pattern, you are understanding the routine, the tradition, the shadow, you are not understanding yourself. This is not just martial arts philosophy. This is a complete rejection of orthodoxy in favor of individual experimentation and empirical testing. Traditional karate practitioners would argue Bruce misunderstands what classical training provides. Yes, the deep stances look impractical. Yes, the formal kata seem choreographed and ritualistic, but traditionalists insist these elements serve deeper purposes. Deep stances build leg strength and structural integrity. A fighter who trains in Zenkatsu Dachai front stance for years develops roots, the ability to generate power from the ground and resist being moved. Kata encode fighting principles in memorable sequences. The movements may look flowery, but each has a bunkai application, a combat interpretation. Kata teach rhythm, breathing, transitions between techniques, and muscle memory that emerges under stress. Rigid hierarchy and discipline forge mental toughness. Bowing, addressing instructors formally, following dojo etiquette, these aren't arbitrary rules. They teach ego suppression, patience, and the humility required to become truly skilled. The traditionalist argument goes, Bruce Lee is talented, but he's impatient. He wants shortcuts. He wants to skip the decades of foundational training and jump straight to application. He criticizes kata without fully understanding them. He's like a student who reads a summary of a philosophy text and thinks he understands Kant. This philosophical divide runs deep. It's the eternal debate, innovation versus tradition, adaptability versus foundation, iconoclasm versus respect for lineage. In most domains, this debate plays out in essays, conferences, and intellectual disagreements. In martial arts, it plays out with fists. By August 1967, Bruce Lee trains with an intensity that borders on obsession. His daily routine includes morning road work, running, often in combat boots to build leg endurance. Heavy bag training, hundreds of kicks and punches, focusing on power generation and speed. Speed bag and double in bag, refining timing and rhythm. Kaisao sticky hands, sensitivity drills to develop instantaneous reaction to contact. Sparring with students, boxers, anyone willing to go hard. Strength training, unconventional for martial artists at the time, Lee lifts weights, does isometric exercises, and obsesses over physical conditioning. Flexibility work, deep stretching, high kicks, splits. Study, reading philosophy, psychology, combat strategy. He keeps detailed training journals, tracking his progress, analyzing weaknesses, refining techniques. He films himself and watches the footage, looking for inefficiencies in his movement. He measures his punch speed, his jab from resting position to full extension, clocks at 5/100ths of a second. Bruce's 1-inch punch, the demonstration that stuns audiences, is not a party trick. It's a practical application of whole-body power generation, using the legs, hips, torso, shoulder, and arm in coordinated sequence to deliver maximum force over minimal distance. It's the same principle heavyweight boxers use, compressed into a single moment of explosive energy. His side kick can buckle heavy bags, denting the leather. Witnesses claim his round kick sounds like a baseball bat hitting wood. Students describe sparring with him as fighting someone who exists in a faster dimension. You think you see an opening, and before your brain finishes processing the thought, Bruce has already hit you 3 times. This is the man Vic Moore calls fake. Bruce Lee's philosophy includes this principle, which he shares with students constantly. I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times. By 1967, Bruce Lee has practiced not one kick 10,000 times, but a dozen techniques 1,000,000 times each, refined through obsessive analysis and constant testing. Vic Moore is about to discover what that looks like. Ed Parker's studio in Pasadena becomes a pressure cooker. Word has spread through the tournament crowd that something is about to happen. Competitors, instructors, and spectators file into the dojo. They line the walls, sit cross-legged on the floor, stand in doorways. The August heat makes the air heavy. Someone cracks a window, but it doesn't help much. Everyone present understands they're about to witness either a validation or a humiliation. Bruce Lee removes his shoes and stands barefoot on the hardwood floor. He wears his typical training clothes, black pants, a black or gray shirt. His expression is calm, almost serene. He rolls his shoulders, shakes out his arms. This is his pre-fight ritual, loosening muscles, calming the mind, entering the state he calls no-mindedness, the Zen concept of mushin, acting without thought, responding without hesitation. Vic Moore stands across from him, still in his gi. Moore radiates confidence. He has competed hundreds of times. He knows what it feels like when adrenaline hits, how to manage pre-fight nerves, how to read an opponent's energy. He has been here before. Bruce has been here before too, but in different contexts. Street fights in Hong Kong, the challenge match against Wong Jack Man, countless hours sparring with students and training partners. But this moment carries its own unique weight, public, witnessed, definitive. Among the witnesses present are several people whose testimonies will shape how this story is told for decades. Ed Parker, the host, tries to maintain order. He respects both men. He knows this confrontation could easily escalate beyond a friendly demonstration. He has seen challenge matches turn bloody. He positions himself where he can intervene if necessary. Dan Inosanto, Bruce's close friend and training partner, watches with a mix of confidence and concern. He has felt Bruce's speed firsthand. He knows what Bruce is capable of. But he also knows that anything can happen in a fight: a lucky punch, a slip, an unexpected counter. Dan's presence is both moral support and insurance. If things go sideways, Dan can step in. Chuck Norris, who has befriended Bruce and trained with him, watches from the side. Years later, Chuck will describe Bruce's speed as the fastest I've ever seen in my life, and I've been doing this for 60 years. Joe Louis, a rising karate champion, is also present. Louis will later become Bruce's student, but in this moment, he's watching with intense curiosity. Can Bruce back up the claims? Dozens of karate competitors fill the rest of the space: black belts, tournament fighters, traditionalists curious to see if the iconoclast can deliver. The atmosphere is electric. Someone coughs, the sound echoes in the otherwise silent room. Bruce Lee addresses Vic Moore directly now, his voice calm but carrying across the room. You think what I do is fake? Okay, let's test it. Moore nods. That's why I'm here. Bruce continues, here's what we'll do. You're a tournament champion. You know how to score points. So try to touch me. Anywhere. Hands, feet, doesn't matter. Touch me once. Moore smirks. In tournament karate, he lands techniques constantly: jabs, reverse punches, roundhouse kicks. This guy wants him to try to touch him. This should take seconds. But Bruce isn't finished. Just once. If you can touch me even once, you prove your point. I'm fake and you win. The challenge is clear, the rules are simple, the outcome will be undeniable. Ed Parker steps forward. Gentlemen, this is a demonstration, not a fight. Control and respect. Both men nod, but everyone in the room knows this is more than a demonstration. Moore takes his fighting stance, left leg forward, hands up, weight distributed, ready to explode forward or pivot away. It's a textbook Shotokan stance, balanced, mobile, structured. Bruce Lee stands differently. His feet are shoulder-width apart, knees slightly bent, weight on the balls of his feet. His lead hand extends forward, fingers loose, almost beckoning. His rear hand hovers near his center line. He looks relaxed, almost casual. But those who train with Bruce recognize this stance. It's his Jeet Kune Do fighting posture, designed for instant reaction in any direction. The room holds its breath. Vic Moore shifts his weight, testing distance, looking for an opening. Bruce Lee doesn't move. His eyes lock onto Moore, not staring at any particular target, but taking in everything. Moore's shoulders, hips, feet, the micro movements that telegraph intention. And then Vic Moore attacks. Moore feints with his lead hand and fires a fast reverse punch, the same technique that has scored points in dozens of tournaments. His fist shoots forward, aimed at Bruce's chest, fast and committed. Bruce is not there. Moore's punch cuts through empty air. Before Moore can retract his arm, Bruce has shifted offline, his body angled, and Moore feels something, a tap, light but deliberate, on his face. Moore resets. That was fast. Okay, he tries again. This time a front snap kick, quick and high, aimed at Bruce's midsection. Bruce intercepts it, not blocking, but intercepting, his hand meeting Moore's shin mid-trajectory and redirecting it harmlessly to the side. In the same motion, Bruce's other hand taps Moore's head. Twice now. Moore's confidence flickers. He tries a roundhouse kick, one of his best techniques. Bruce moves inside it, too close for the kick to land with power, and as Moore's leg swings past, Bruce taps him on the ribs. 3 times. Moore tries a combination jab, reverse punch, front kick, throwing multiple techniques in rapid sequence to overwhelm Bruce's defense. Bruce slips the jab, parries the punch, and sidesteps the kick. Each time he counters with a light tap, shoulder, head, ribs. 6 times now. The room is silent except for the sounds of Moore's breathing and the soft taps of Bruce's counters landing. Moore is fast, Moore is skilled, Moore is a champion. But he cannot touch Bruce Lee. Every attack is anticipated, intercepted, evaded. Every opening Moore thinks he sees closes before he can exploit it. It's like fighting a ghost, a presence that exists in the spaces between Moore's techniques. 12 seconds have passed. Moore has thrown 8 or 9 techniques, fast, committed, tournament-level attacks. Bruce Lee has tagged him 6 times. And Moore hasn't touched Bruce once. What happens in those 12 seconds is not magic. It's not movie choreography. It's the practical application of principles Bruce has drilled into muscle memory through thousands of hours of training. Let's break it down. Moore's first reverse punch, a committed linear attack. Bruce reads the shoulder rotation that precedes the punch, a microtelegraph that gives him a fraction of a second to move. He shifts his weight and angles his body offline, moving off the line of attack, a principle borrowed from boxing. Moore's punch hits air. Bruce counters with a finger jab to Moore's face, not to hurt, but to prove he could have. Moore's front snap kick. Moore lifts his knee and extends. Bruce recognizes the chamber position instantly. Instead of retreating or blocking, Bruce steps forward and meets the attack before it reaches full extension, the intercepting in Jeet Kune Do. He redirects the kick with one hand while tagging Moore with the other. This happens so fast that most witnesses don't fully process the sequence until later. Moore's roundhouse kick, a power technique, typically devastating if it lands, but roundhouse kicks require rotation and cover more distance, giving Bruce more time to react. Bruce closes distance, smothering the kick's power before it develops. From close range, he taps Moore's ribs. This is trapping range, Bruce's specialty. Moore's combination. Moore tries to overwhelm with volume, but Bruce operates on a principle he teaches constantly. The height of cultivation is really nothing special. It is merely simplicity, the ability to express the utmost with the minimum. Bruce doesn't counter with complex sequences. He uses single efficient movements, a bob, a weave, a parry, each one putting him in position to strike, while Moore is extended and vulnerable. What witnesses see is almost supernatural speed. What's actually happening is Bruce eliminating wasted motion. Every movement serves a purpose. There's no wind-up, no telegraphing, no excess. His body operates like a finely tuned machine. See, threat, process, respond, all in the time it takes most people to blink. For Vic Moore, those 12 seconds are disorienting. He is accustomed to landing techniques. In tournaments, his reverse punch scores, his kicks connect. Opponents react to his speed and power. He controls range and timing, but against Bruce Lee, nothing works. It's like sparring underwater. Everything feels slow, heavy, ineffective. Moore tries harder, throws faster, but effort doesn't help. The more Moore commits to his attacks, the more vulnerable he becomes. Bruce isn't blocking or retreating. He's using Moore's momentum against him, redirecting energy, exploiting the split-second openings that occur when any fighter extends a limb. And those taps, light, controlled, precise, are psychological warfare. Each tap says, I could hurt you right now, but I'm choosing not to. Each tap is a statement, you're open, you're vulnerable, I own this space. After 6 tags in 12 seconds, Moore stops. He doesn't quit out of cowardice. He stops because the point has been made. He cannot touch Bruce Lee. Continuing would only add to the tally of times Bruce counters him. Moore drops his hands slightly, takes a breath, and steps back. Here's what's crucial to understand. Bruce Lee could have hurt Vic Moore. Every one of those taps could have been a full power strike. The finger jab to the face could have been a thrust to the eyes or throat. The tap to the ribs could have been a penetrating hook or elbow. Bruce is not operating at full intensity, he's demonstrating control. This restraint is itself a form of dominance. Bruce doesn't need to injure Moore to prove his point. The demonstration is more effective because it's controlled. If Bruce had knocked Moore out, critics could say Moore got caught, got unlucky, walked into something. But this systematic, calm dismantling of Moore's offense, this shows mastery. Bruce Lee has proven what he set out to prove. His techniques work. His speed is real. His philosophy is not theoretical nonsense, but practical application. Jeet Kune Do is not fake, it's functional, efficient, and devastatingly effective. Witnesses stand in stunned silence. Ed Parker breaks the silence. Gentlemen, thank you. It's a diplomatic way to end the confrontation before egos shatter completely. Parker has seen enough challenge matches turn ugly. This one could have, but both men, to their credit, show restraint and respect. Vic Moore bows a formal karate bow, acknowledging what just happened. He doesn't make excuses. He doesn't claim Bruce got lucky. He simply nods and says, "You're fast, very fast." Bruce returns the bow. He doesn't gloat. He doesn't lecture. He simply says, "Thank you for testing me." The room erupts in murmurs. Witnesses turn to each other, processing what they just saw. Chuck Norris will later say, "I'd heard about Bruce's speed, but seeing it against a legitimate fighter like Vic, that was something else. Vic was no joke, and Bruce made it look effortless." Dan Inosanto smiles. He has felt that speed himself. He knows Bruce could have gone harder. He's relieved it ended cleanly. Joe Louis, watching from the side, makes a decision in that moment. He wants to learn from Bruce Lee. Within months, Louis will seek Bruce out and begin private training, applying Jeet Kune Do principles to his tournament, fighting with devastating results. To his credit, Vic Moore does not become bitter. In later interviews, Moore will speak respectfully of Bruce Lee. He'll acknowledge that Bruce was faster than anyone he'd ever encountered, that the experience taught him to be more open-minded about different martial arts approaches. Moore doesn't claim the confrontation was unfair or staged. He simply admits Bruce was better in that specific context on that specific day. This graciousness is important. It's part of what elevates this story from a mere ego battle to a meaningful moment in martial arts history. Both men demonstrated skill, but they also demonstrated character. Moore could have made excuses. "I was tired. It wasn't a real fight. He got lucky." He doesn't. Bruce could have humiliated Moore further. He doesn't. The confrontation is resolved with mutual respect, not friendship perhaps, but acknowledgement of each other's abilities. The 12 seconds between Bruce Lee and Vic Moore ripple outward through the martial arts community. Stories spread, witnesses tell friends, competitors who weren't there hear second-hand accounts and seek out Bruce's demonstrations. The mystique around Bruce grows, but now it's grounded in verification. He didn't just claim his techniques work, he proved it against a legitimate tournament champion. This moment accelerates several trends. 1. Cross-training becomes acceptable. Before Bruce, most martial artists stayed within their style. After Bruce, especially after respected competitors like Joe Louis and Chuck Norris publicly train with him, it becomes normal to study multiple systems. 2. Traditional kata are questioned. Bruce's criticism of forms as impractical gains traction. Many schools begin emphasizing sparring and application over rote memorization of kata. 3. Speed and efficiency are prioritized. Bruce's philosophy of eliminating wasted motion influences how martial arts are taught. Instructors start filming students, analyzing technique for inefficiency, incorporating plyometrics and speed training. 4. Reality-based training emerges. The question Bruce forces people to ask, would this work in a real fight, becomes central to martial arts pedagogy. This question will eventually lead to the development of mixed martial arts (MMA) decades later. Bruce himself evolves after this moment. He becomes more confident in publicly criticizing traditional martial arts. He gives interviews where he's even more direct about the flaws he sees in classical training. He writes more, developing Jeet Kune Do's philosophy into a comprehensive system that his students can teach. But Bruce also becomes more reflective. He writes in his notes, "A good martial artist does not become tense but ready, not thinking yet not dreaming, ready for whatever may come." The confrontation with Moore validated his approach, but it also reminded him that martial arts is about constant adaptation, not fixed doctrine. In interviews after 1967, Bruce occasionally references challenge matches and demonstrations, though he rarely names specific opponents. He says, "I don't believe in different ways of fighting now. I mean, unless humans have 3 arms and 3 legs, then we will have a different form of fighting. But basically we all have 2 arms and 2 legs, so that is why I believe there should be only one form of fighting, and that is no form." This is the lesson Bruce takes from moments like the confrontation with Vic Moore. There's no karate way or kung fu way of fighting, there's only what works and what doesn't. The human body has certain biomechanical realities. Physics doesn't care about style or lineage. Effective techniques are effective regardless of whether they come from Okinawa, China, or a boxing gym in Los Angeles. Bruce also says, if you always put limits on everything you do, physical or anything else, it will spread into your work and into your life. There are no limits. There are only plateaus, and you must not stay there, you must go beyond them. The confrontation with Moore was a plateau moment, a test that Bruce passed. But Bruce doesn't rest on that validation. He continues training, refining, questioning. He pushes his body harder. He studies more deeply. He teaches more selectively, taking only students who embrace the philosophy of constant evolution. By the time Bruce Lee films Enter the Dragon in 1973, the movie that will make him a global superstar, he has tested his art hundreds of times in private sessions, demonstrations, and sparring matches. The 12 seconds against Vic Moore are just one moment in a lifetime of verification. But they remain iconic because they're witnessed, because they're definitive, and because they represent the moment when Bruce Lee silenced the loudest criticism that his art was fake. What can we extract from this story that applies beyond martial arts? The confrontation between Bruce Lee and Vic Moore is fundamentally about this tension: innovation versus tradition, proof versus prestige, substance versus reputation. Vic Moore represented the establishment, proven, credentialed, respected within the existing system. Bruce Lee represented the insurgent, unproven by traditional metrics, disrespectful of hierarchy, claiming a better way. This dynamic plays out in every field. In business, the startup challenging the corporation. In science, the researcher proposing a theory that contradicts established models. In art, the creator rejecting classical forms for experimental approaches. In technology, the engineer building something new instead of iterating on what exists. The lesson is not that innovation is always right. The lesson is that claims must be tested and tests must be fair. Vic Moore did the right thing by challenging Bruce Lee. He had legitimate questions. Does this work? Can you prove it? The error would have been to accept Bruce's claims uncritically, simply because Bruce was charismatic or confident. Bruce Lee did the right thing by accepting the challenge. He could have hidden behind mystique, avoided verification, insisted that his art couldn't be tested in such crude ways. Instead, he said, "Test me, see for yourself." The universal principle: don't confuse credentials with competence. Don't confuse tradition with truth, and don't confuse innovation with improvement unless you're willing to test it. Bruce Lee's writings are filled with wisdom that transcends martial arts. Here are 3 quotes that illuminate the lesson of this confrontation. 1. Knowing is not enough, we must apply. Willing is not enough, we must do. Theory is worthless without practice. Bruce didn't just talk about speed and efficiency, he trained obsessively to embody those principles. Vic Moore didn't just hear claims, he tested them. 2. Adapt what is useful, reject what is useless, and add what is specifically your own. This is the antidote to both blind traditionalism and reckless innovation. Take what works from any source, discard what doesn't, and customize based on your context. Bruce studied Wing Chun, boxing, fencing, and philosophy. He didn't reject tradition wholesale, he rejected dogma. 3. The successful warrior is the average man with laser-like focus. Bruce Lee was not superhuman. He was a man who trained harder, thought deeper, and focused more intensely than almost anyone else. The 12 seconds against Vic Moore were not magic. They were the result of countless hours eliminating inefficiency and drilling fundamentals. You don't need to be Bruce Lee to apply these principles. You need to be willing to question, test, and refine relentlessly. Los Angeles, California, August 1967. In a small studio in Pasadena, a 27-year-old martial artist with a controversial reputation accepts a challenge from a decorated karate champion who calls him fake. 12 seconds later, the challenge is answered. 6 times Bruce Lee counters, 0 times Vic Moore touches him. The witnesses leave Ed Parker's studio that day carrying a story they'll tell for the rest of their lives. Some will embellish it, some will misremember details, but the core truth remains consistent. Bruce Lee was as fast, as skilled, and as real as anyone claimed, perhaps more. Bruce Lee will die 6 years later in 1973, at age 32, under circumstances that remain medically debated. He'll never live to see the full impact of his philosophy on martial arts, never witness the rise of MMA that validates his vision of cross-training and practical effectiveness, never know that his image will become synonymous with martial excellence for billions of people worldwide. But on that August day in 1967, Bruce Lee doesn't need to know the future. He knows what he proved in 12 seconds. That speed is real, that technique works, that philosophy becomes physics when trained with discipline, that innovation can defeat tradition not through arrogance but through relentless testing and refinement. Vic Moore walks away with a story about the fastest man he ever faced. Bruce Lee walks away with validation he doesn't need but the world demands. And the rest of us are left with a question worth pondering. When someone challenges your beliefs, your skills, your work, can you say what Bruce said? Test me, see for yourself. And when tested, will you deliver?